Hello, welcome back to Planet 40k. The winner of this week's poll from our Patreon was the SKORPEKH Destroyers, so that's today's topic. Now, we did cover this unit when it was released last summer from the Indominus box set, but this is another unit that needs an update due to the latest Necron Codex release. So a lot of the information will be the same, but obviously rules and synergy have changed. Right, so these guys come in a unit of 3, and since the Codex release, now can be taken up to units of 6, which is pretty cool as 3 didn't quite feel enough, especially with the new reanimation protocols, which we'll go over in a moment. A unit of 3 of them will cost you 5 power, or 10 if you're taking 4 or more, and if you are playing points, as most of you are, then they're going to be 35 points a model. These guys will be one of your elite options within the detachment, which admittedly is quite a crowded competitive area of the book. So starting with the keywords of note, they can go into any dynasty. They've got the Destroyer Cult keyword, and they're an infantry. As for stat line, movement 8 inch, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 5, toughness 5, wounds 3, attacks 3, leadership 10 and a 3+ save. Same stats as they were pre-Codex, so pretty solid, can move quick, and they're quite resilient. Looking onto the abilities, living metal, regaining a lost wound in the command phase, reanimation protocols. Now I'm sure you all know what this is by now, but the ability isn't that great for this unit as they're 3 wounds apiece. So you need 3 5+ rolls to get a single model back. So it's very unlikely to work unless you lose 3 models, then on average you'll get 1 back. But that's why 3-man units are not the best way to go, because when you lose 3, the unit's wiped out. So I suggest always going between 4 and 6 models just in case one volley of attacks wipes out 3. At least on average you'll get 1 back. They also have command protocols for those added bonuses each battle round. They do have their uses, but timing is sometimes difficult when using them. They've then got hardwired for destruction, which is rerolls of 1s to hit, which is really going to aid them in melee. Now going on to the weapon, they are a melee unit. For every 3 models in the unit, one of them will have a hyperphase reap blade and the other 2 will carry a hyperphase thresher. Starting off with the weaker of the 2 is the threshers. They are strength user, making them a strength 5, -3 AP and 2 damage. And each time the bearer fights with the threshers, they gain an additional attack. So 2 out of the 3 in the min unit will carry these. They've got 3 attacks each base, and they're going to get 1 additional attack each, bringing it up to 8 total combined attacks. Now 8 attacks they hit on 3s, while re-rolling 1s will on average get you 6.2 hits. Wounding standard toughness 4 infantry on 3s, netting around 4.1 wounds. Against toughness 5 it's about 3.1, and toughness 6 right up to toughness 9 you're going to need 5, so only about 2.1. The -3 AP is magic. It pretty much leaves a 6+ save at best, or of course an invuln save. Then 2 damage a pop is perfect for the current Space Marine meta. So I'd personally use these to chop down Marine infantry. The unit is quick enough to get them and take them out. Only 2 of the models alone are getting 4 wounds through, which on average is 6.9 damage, but should clear off 3 Primaris Marines and leave another one on a single wound. So that's 2 out of the 3 models in the unit covered. Now the other one is the Reap Blade. So a hyperphase Reap Blade is strength +2, making it strength 7, -4 AP, and the damage is 3. Now there's no extra attack with this weapon, so we will have 3 attacks with it, and hitting an average of 2 out of 3 of those, but of course he does get to reroll 1s, so that average does increase to 2.3. Strength 7 against toughness 4 infantry is still 3s to wound, so 1.6 on average going through, and -4 AP and leaves nothing but invuns. Now with a little bit of luck you could be removing 2 models here. If you target toughness 7 vehicles then you're wounding on 4s, so about 1.2 wounds on average getting through there. Again, no saves unless there's an invuln, and each wound doing a flat 3 damage is pretty good. Now you could target a toughness 7 vehicle with the previous weapon, the threshers. They probably only get about 0.8 wounds through, which is an average damage output of 1.3. It isn't much, but it adds to the damage from the Reap Blade and then this one as well, taking you to approximately 4.8 damage with a min unit against a toughness 7 vehicle. Now of course if you had a full man unit of 6, then simply double the figures. It's likely to put a vehicle down to its last legs. Now at this point of the review we should mention that you can massively buff these weapons further with a Canoptic Plasma Sight. Now this little guy will only cost you 15 points. We'll probably do a full review of the model at a later date, but for now we'll just go over how he interacts with the SKORPEKH Destroyer weapons. They have an ability called Infused Madness, used in the charge phase or the fight phase on a Dynasty Destroyer Cult unit within 3 inches, such as your SKORPEKH Destroyers. You roll 1 dice. If you do roll a 1, then one of your SKORPEKH Destroyers unfortunately dies, but regardless of the result you add 1 to the strength of all the weapons in the unit and the attacks as well, which is huge. So running those 2 breakdowns again for you just to show how big the ability is. The weaker weapon here, which is the threshers, and now strength 6, which isn't that big of a deal unless you're fighting against toughness 5 infantry, because now you're winding on 3s. But more importantly, you now have a combined total of 10 attacks with them. 10 attacks on average is going to hit 7.8 times. Against those toughness 4 and toughness 5 units, you're now roughly getting 5.2 wounds, and as a result of it, you'll get 4 dead Primaris Marines. Toughness 7 vehicles, you're still wounded on 5s, but now you're doing about 4.3 damage on average. The Reap Blades will go to a strength 8, which is brilliant, and now he's got 4 attacks as well, so he should hit on average 3.1 times. Wounding toughness 4 infantry only on 2s now, so it's going to wound about 2.6 of those. Even got a good chance of removing Terminators off the board with each wound. Against toughness 7 vehicles, however, you will cause about 2.1 wounds on average, with the total damage being about 6.2. So combine this 6.2 with the other 2 model damage against toughness 7 vehicles, then you're looking at a combined damage average of 10.5. Just from a min unit of 3 with the plasma sight. Again, double it to 21 damage if you're going to take a 6-man unit. 21 damage is pretty hefty. Knights are not going to like this unit one bit. It's going to rip open a dreadnought and put those bigger tank units on a severely poor bracket in the damage table. Now there is a risk of rolling a 1, but even if you did, the damage trade-off is sometimes worth the hit, so don't be afraid to use it against a key unit. If you guys manage to get hold of a character in combat, then that character is not going to have a good day. Okay, on to the Codex synergy. Dynasty codes first. The codes worth building around. The Necron Dynasty is one of them, which grants you all a 6+ in-run save, but it also lets you auto advance 6 inches, and you can do the movement through terrain or other models. I'll mention their stratagem here to link the review a bit cleaner. Their stratagem is Translocation Crypt for 1 CP, which allows them to deep strike. Now a really viable option to pop them in from deep strike, as it's going to protect them from range attacks, especially if you don't get first turn. The next dynasty is the Novot Dynasty, which grants a +1 to their charge roll. Then they also get an additional -1 AP to their weapons if they charged or were charged. Now the AP probably isn't as needed, as your AP is quite high anyway, but maybe those models using the Threshers will gladly take a -4 AP to prevent a 6+ armor save. Their stratagem is Blood Rites for 1 CP, which gives all models in the unit an additional attack. Now I'm not going to do a breakdown a third time, but this one's pretty big, and if you do use a Novot code, 100% use this stratagem with these guys, or one of your other melee units such as Lichguard or Flayed ones. It's always worth using that just for 1 CP. The Zwar Conco gives them a 5+ feel and a pain roll against mortal wounds. Now your guys are likely to be up the board, so also very likely to be the nearest eligible unit for smite attacks, so this one can help. The code also lets you reroll a single wound roll per unit per phase, which is really nice for your Reap Blade especially. Always roll that Reap Blade first when you do the attack, so you know whether you still have that rerolled save for the Threshers or not. Their stratagem is Empiric Damping for 1 CP, which lets your SKORPEKH destroyers deny a psychic ability within 18 inches using a single roll of a 4+. The other generic codes aren't really built for melee units, so we'll move into the custom codes now. The ones worth a mention from the traditions list are the Superior Artisans that give you 1 reroll to wound dice. Red Reeves will remove a point in toughness against enemy non-vehicle units in combat with your destroyers. When you combine this with the plasma sight, you're going to turn your strength 5 Threshers into strength 6, and you'll be putting toughness 4 infantry down to toughness 3, meaning you're going to wound them on 2s. Unyielding for a 6+ in-1 save, probably not worth it, but the option is there. Masters of the Martial gives a single reroll to hit for the unit. Somewhat useful, but remember you already reroll 1s to hit, so it's only going to work on rolls of a 2. Butchers for that +1 to charge, that's probably the final one from the list here. The second list has Arise from the Interlopers, which is any 6s to hit will score an auto wound against the infantry and biker units. Not bad. Relentlessly Expansionist to get that 6-inch pre-game movement, can get you into terrain or just closer to the targets. Now out of the custom codes, I'd probably say the best combo that works well with the SKORPEKH destroyers is Rad Reeve along with Arise against the Interlopers, but Relentlessly Expansionist is also a good shout. Looking at the generic stratagems that work well with a unit, there's only one really here that works well, which is the Whirling Onslaught for 1 CP. So when your unit is selected as a target for an attack, the enemy must subtract 1 from the wound roll. Now it's not often you see a negative modifier for the wound roll. This one can be useful if you're up against a lot of firepower, and it will cut a lot of them out and save you guys from dying. Now this is going to sound a bit backwards, but in some circumstances it is better to let your model just die. For example, if 2 destroyers die, then when you do your rolls for your reanimation protocols, you're only going to have 6 dice and need 3 lots of 5-up rolls to get just 1 back. So the odds are not in your favour to stand the model back up, whereas if a third model in the unit did die from that attack, then you've got 9 dice to play with, and rolling 3 lots of 5+ dice is now an average roll, so you're likely to get that model back, and you've gotten past that enemy unit's volley of shots and not spent a CP to -1 to the wound roll as well. Now it is very situational and also a tad risky, but if the models are going to die anyway, why not give yourself a better chance of reviving them? Okay, before we go into the conclusion of the review, we need to check out some unit synergy. Now the first one is the SKORPEKH Lord. He's got the United in Destruction aura that allows you to reroll wound rolls of a 1. So now your hit rolls and wound rolls are both rerolling 1s. The Locust Lord has the same ability, but he can also take a Resurrection Orb. Now I personally wouldn't use the orb on this unit, but it's an option. A Technomancer has rights of reanimation. Now this only works on core units. Now, however, he has access to a Cryptic Arcana called the Phylacterine Hive, which allows you to use it on a Destroyer cult unit once per battle. Now the Arcana costs 20 points and a Destroyer costs 35, so you do get a bit of profit when you use it. Technomancers can also repair Dynasty units D3 wounds per turn with their Canoptic Cloaks. Although Living Metal will usually just get the guys back to full wounds, unless they've only got one left of course. Probably not worth it for that alone, as the cloak costs 5 points and you might not even get to use it on the unit. A Chronomancer is my preferred option, as you can keep up with them with his 8-inch movement, but you can also use his Chronometron, which gives them a reroll to their charge rolls, but furthermore it gives them a 5+ invuln save, which I personally think is huge as they don't have an invuln. Okay, conclusion time. A very punchy unit. If you buff it to the max, it can cause some ridiculous damage, and like we already mentioned, Knights will not enjoy it if a buffed up max unit of SKORPEKH destroyers come in for a scrap. The weapons have a lot of damage and AP to them, so this makes them ideal for killing virtually anything that gets in their way, and they're not even wasted on just going after Primaris infantry, because they'll slaughter an entire unit with ease. They're pretty resilient with their living metal. If you give them the Chronomancer's ability, then that 5+ invuln is really going to help them. Now the downsides of the unit is the reanimation protocols. It's not going to really do much unless you lose a large chunk of the unit. Okay, you'll get one back, but whatever killed most of the unit in the first place will probably repeat it again unless they're dealt with. They don't seem to synergize that well with the book, as they're not a core unit or a Canoptic unit. It's only a few things actually work well. It's not a huge problem, to be honest, just let them go and do their thing. Now in the review we did before the Codex release, they were given a 4-star. They have since had a huge nerf due to the reanimation protocols, however they can now be taken in max units of 6 rather than 3. So I do believe they've still retained this rating, so as for the SKORPEKH destroyers, they're going to get a Planet 40k rating of 4 out of 5. There's still other good melee units that can be taken as an alternative, such as Wraiths, and they've also got their own inbuilt invuln save. They are only strength 6 and not as good at attacking vehicles as the SKORPEKH destroyers. If you are up against heavily armoured vehicle armies, then the better option is the SKORPEKH destroyers of course, but Lich Guard and Wraiths can deal with all the infantry. So that's where I'm at with these guys. Let me know your comments on where you are at. Quick poll for the end of the video: which is your preferred melee unit in the Codex? Options are SKORPEKH destroyers, Wraiths or Lich Guard. Now remember to subscribe if you're new and hit the like button on your way out. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.